Were you on any type of structured strength program? And if not, when did you first go on like a legit strength program, and what was that program?
It was like we maxed out to get our base, but then after that to get our percentages, and then we went and it was just a pyramid, like a set of 6, a set of 4, a set of 2, then a drop set of 8. You know what I mean? Like that was the first thing I ever did for any kind of strength training. And that was everything. And then you just did your accessories, 12, 15, whatever. But that was it, you know, starting football. So
basic stuff. They just had you work up to heavy 4, you said like heavy 4, heavy 2, and then back off sets with lighter weight. And you did it on like every lift. What were the main lifts they were having you train for football?
It was no deadlift, just hex bar, but that wasn't considered a main lift. It was bench, power cleans, and squats.
What's your best? What did you power clean back then?
My best was 405.
Nice. All right. So think about getting into Olympic weightlifting?
I'm definitely not flexible enough right now. That'd take a lot of time to get stretched out to do that.
Well, Mark Henry was great at Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, and strongman, right?
Yeah.
So you can do it, but
oh yeah, you can do it. It's just I'm not flexible enough at the moment. I'm very stiff.
Not easy either. Well, I've recently been getting into Olympic weightlifting, and my like best clean and jerk is like 105 kilos. So it's like not. Yeah.
Yeah. It just takes time, like anything else. It'll come.
Yeah. So you were just doing very basic stuff, and you're basically not really on a specific program. Did you ever get to the point where you went on to like a named program? Have you ever tried like any popular strength program, or it was just kind of like you did your own programming? Did you have a strength coach in the past? How did that work?
No, like I did my own stuff until last January when I got coached by Travis. I was stupid. I'd just do pretty much the same thing. I was always working up to heavy double and doing like 3 or 4 back down sets. But then eventually, like I would start like 9 weeks out, I'd do like sets of 15, like 5, 6, 3 sets of 15, and then just like a lot of accessories. And then like 6 weeks out, I'd drop it to 10. Then 6 weeks out, I'd do 5 3s and 1s, you know, like that's how I would peak myself for the meets. But other than that, like I just kind of threw everything together. I was just trying to confuse my muscles. That was all I was doing different things all the time. I felt like that's how I grew the best, was just muscle confusion.
So when you were doing like for the meet, it was basically working up to meets. It was basically like what they would call like a linear periodization or like a block periodization, like, you know, starting high reps and lower weight and then just going down to heavier weight for lower reps.
Yeah.
Building up to the meet. Got it. I remember I did a program like that like many years ago, and like I did it like entirely stupidly and it didn't work at all. But I think what it comes down to though is like you did the basics and the basics worked. So like why would you need to like complexify, even if that's even a word, why would you need to complexify your programming if the basics have worked so well to get you up to like world-class level strength, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like to follow the rule, keep it simple, stupid, you know, like being complex ain't always good because you lose your form. You don't know how to do the movement, and just sticking with what you know usually builds a better base.
So that's actually an interesting point we could move into, because a lot of people in powerlifting, there's always this talk about like, what's the best accessory lift? Like, is safety bar squats better than box squats? Or if do you want to do Anderson squats or pin squats or whatever you call them? Pause squats versus pin squats, or what's your whole take on like what have you found to be useful accessory movements, if any, for building your strength? And does it kind of change over time?
I just did a lot of negatives and a lot of overloading, like for bench and squats. I do like a block. I do box squats, or I do board presses for bench. And I would do tempos too, but like I started to get into like pin squats, but we just, like at the old gym I was going to, we didn't have any specialty bars. We just had a power bar. That's all I ever squatted with until I bought my own squat bar. And then I've been trying to put my own money into my own stuff, but yeah, like it was just straight power bar, and then trying to change up the movement for the first half of the movement, the second half of the movement, and then my accessories would be just isolation stuff.
Right. So I guess what you're doing is you just kind of like played with a bunch of different assistance movements, but you never really identified one that was in particular like use. Like you never really found like, oh yeah, pin squats, that's the secret. Because I hear people talking all the time about it, and most of it, in my opinion, is bullshit, because it's really like what works for you is what's going to be the thing that works for you, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. So like you don't really have like a specific like the secret is the pause squat. None of that.
No. I just like confusing the muscle, doing different stuff all the time. So, yeah. I mean, it wasn't just one singular thing that actually led to the best movement. You know what I mean? For me, it was just constantly working different things. That's what worked for me.
So when you talk muscle confusion, are you talking like each workout, like you're trying to like, you're like whipping the muscles with like resistance bands, or you're like jumping off the wall and rolling around on the floor to confuse the muscles because they don't really know what you're actually doing before you do a lift? That's what you're talking about, right?
No, like just the actual squat, bench, or deadlift. You'll do like, say one day I would do box squat. I would do my heavy squat, and then I'd do box squats. And I'd say my squat would be like a heavy 4, and then from that 4 I would go straight up to like heavy doubles and singles for box squats. The next day, depending on how I felt, I would do a heavy double on my regular squat, but then drop back and do front squats or tempo squats or pause squats.
So essentially you would adjust the lift based on how you were feeling for that day, which variation you would use for assistance.
Yeah.
Interesting. So essentially what you're doing is you're using like a really high level of, auto regulation, where you're, instead of, how people use like RPE and stuff like that, where you're kind of using like RPE to guide like what lift you're doing.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was called RPE until after I did it. So
that's very interesting. And that's, to be honest, if you can nail doing that, that sounds like it would be incredibly effective. Because I know for a fact, there's days when I'm like, oh yeah, I have to do front squats today. And I'm like, I really don't fucking feel like doing front squats. I feel like I could probably do like box squats better today, or I could do like pause squats better. And really kind of taking advantage of, to me, it's like, because that you're going to have some amount of performance, like you're never going to be 100% every single day where you're going to be able to like max out every day, right? But it's kind of like you're taking advantage of that performance variation by really being in tune with like what you're capable of doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is not to get down on yourself. Once you hit, like, say you hit 800 this day for 2, and this day you only hit 750. I mean, it's not always, there's a lot of different factors that goes into it, but you just can't get down, and you just got to keep pushing, because bad days are still good days.
Like maybe you didn't do your stretching, so you're not feeling too good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So if you're talking to someone who's like a very beginner, because my podcast is mostly a general strength podcast, and it's mostly for novice lifters and people who are just interested in general fitness type topics. What would your advice be to a beginner who just wants to get strong as fuck?
Really just take your time, because it ain't going to come overnight. Repetitions will be your friend. You don't have to be heavy reps, but just good, solid, clean repetitions. Working on form and the bases. And then after you have I have a good idea of how your body works and how you can adjust from fatigue. will determine how you can be better that day and going forward.
So do you think it's really important when you start out to have like the perfect program?
Um, I truthfully don't think there's such thing as a perfect program, because there's always going to be that day you worked 12 hours this day, or you didn't drink your water, or you didn't eat enough. There's always going to be that. There's always going to be something to hinder it. I mean, I guess to an extent, I guess RPE, just because like it goes by the day, but I'm not good with RPE. Like I'm good for doing it myself, but having somebody else do it, write out a program for me, I've noticed like I just get a big head and I always want to go heavier. Like you got an RPE of 9. I'm like, I can push out, maybe get 1. But, like it's not supposed to be like that. You're supposed to have a little over a 1. But my ego gets the best of me, basically. But if you're good with it with RPE, that'd probably be the best way to start.